Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Eclecticka. I am Seven. We have Charles. We also have CC. And we have our special guests. That would be David Axe and Christopher Bickel. How are you guys doing?
Great. How are you?
Now, you guys have two films that you're working on. And that's why you're here today, which is THETA GIRL and Teenage Caligula.
Correct.
I'm not
THETA
even...
Girl's, right. THETA Girl's a feature that we're in pre-production on. We start production in a week. Teenage Caligula is a concept that we did a trailer for, and theoretically will be another feature we do maybe in a year or so.
Well, all I gotta say is Teenage Caligula is so awesome.
Thanks.
I'm trying to get into film. I'm trying to figure out a way to bribe these guys and be a part of this. As we speak, I'm going to put some footage up of that while we're talking so people can see. But also, if you want to check out the whole trailer, you could go to sevnetwork.com. So what inspired you guys to do THETA GIRL?
Are we allowed to say drugs?
Yep, you definitely are.
That's not entirely the case, but maybe a small part of it.
A little piece.
Is that what it's about? Actually, because I know a little bit more about THETA GIRL because of Teenage Caligula because of the trailer. What is the synopsis of THETA GIRL?
Okay, do you want to do the synopsis?
Yeah. So THETA GIRL's about a kind of badass young female protagonist living kind of in the underground of any city any small town USA in a kind of timeless alternate reality that is sort of the present, but also kind of pulls pop culture elements from the 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s. She deals a psychedelic, hallucinogenic drug called theta on her quest for spiritual awareness, spiritual awakening. And she kind of runs afoul of a creepy band of murderous, Bible-thumping street preachers, and has to exact her revenge, which makes it sound like cheesy and silly, but we're drawing less on the kind of like trauma style of filmmaking and more on gritty 70s exploitation films, tossing in a dash of like really gory, sexy 80s slasher films, but with a kind of musical and visual sensibility that might be 80s and wait.
I'm laughing because I look at Charles' face just light up.
It's like stuff I grew up on. That's what I'm saying. It's like
it's very much like your 70s and 80s exploitation films, horror films, but also it's very existentialist. It's as much of a like crazy like action horror film as it is like an art film. So it's like one of my favorite directors is this guy Jack Hill, who did Switchblade Sisters. He did a movie called Spider Baby. There's all these like sort of like weird exploitation movies from the 70s, but it's also a little bit of David Lynch too. It kind of goes like off into left field. Like it's very much influenced by art films. So it has these psychedelic elements, but it also is very much just puerile entertainment as far as action and blood and nudity, and as far as the nudity goes, there's this sort of trope that exists where female nudity is okay, but male nudity is like very much a taboo, and we're very opposed to that. We feel like equal time.
Lots of dong.
Yeah, I showed mine. You showed yours.
Screen time.
So when we first started writing this, we wanted to do a film where all of the good guys were women and all the bad guys were men, and specifically religious white men. We feel like there are certain elements that are overrepresented in our modern culture, and we would like to take some of those elements down a notch, and basically just have these like badass women of various identities just completely kicking everyone's ass.
I'm also smiling so much because I don't think anything that you guys do cinematically will ever be simple. I get that feeling that it'll always be complicated, and I like it. Like, I'm already a fan of what you guys are doing.
That's our major problem, because we can't do anything simple, yet our budget on this movie is like $10,000. And so if we were doing something simple, it would be a lot easier to make this movie for $10,000. But we have made it so complicated that right now we're like losing our minds and tearing our hair out because we're trying to figure out how we're going to do all this really complicated stuff for like $10,000.
Well, yeah, we'll manage.
We can do it. I mean, I know we can do it, but yeah, we want to make the craziest possible thing we can make on this like ridiculously low budget.
Well, I find that you made it very difficult even for your fans, just because for right now you have a Kickstarter, and it's
Indiegogo.
for THETA GIRL. Oh, it's Indiegogo.
Yeah.
And it's for THETA GIRL.
Yeah.
But yet the trailer is Teenage Caligula. Why is that?
Okay, so this is ridiculous what we did. I realize for a lot of people this makes no sense, but we were kind of cheeky about it. I think we wanted to make a statement that we were so confident in the success of this film we're about to make that we made a trailer for our second film.
I understand it.
Right. So it's basically to say like well, we already know this one's done. It's in the can. It's going to be awesome, and it's going to be so successful that people will want to see our second movie. So here's a taste of the second one. We don't have to show you anything about the first one because we already know that one's done, and it's going to be awesome.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and from a practical point of view, we are first-time filmmakers. We needed to kind of exercise, try out our cast and ourselves, and see what we're capable of, and sort of develop some skills, a little bit of trial and error before we start shooting the THETA GIRL. So what better way to practice for the THETA GIRL than to just make a trailer? Because from a writing point of view and a directorial point of view, shooting a trailer for a non-existent film is a little more forgiving than shooting a feature, because all we had to do is like get a bunch of our people together and come up with like 3 or 4 awesome ideas. And if one of them came together on a day's shoot, then it was a great shoot. And then just sort of glue all that together with some cool music, and you've got a trailer. So it was the trailer is the centerpiece of our fundraising, but it's also practice.
Right. I think that's important. Like everything we did with that particular trailer for Teenage Caligula was practice. It was practice. I mean, we are first-time filmmakers. This is that trailer is literally the first thing we have ever shot, edited, anything. And we wanted to use our actors that we're going to use in the THETA GIRL. So we wanted to kind of like see how they worked. We wanted to use the gear, and we wanted to put our paces through the editing. And we shot that on a budget of $150. So we kind of wanted to prove to ourselves that you can make a movie for nothing, and as long as it's entertaining, it's going to be good. And that's sort of goes to my whole theory that there's no such thing as a bad movie. There's only boring movies.
Well, David, because you're the writer on the film.
Yeah.
So I'm going to specifically, when you're thinking about all the lines, the locations, and just putting that all together in that sense, was there any pressure because of the budget limits?
No, I wish there had been. Our guiding principle in writing this was that it had to be something that both of us were interested in, and also every 5 pages there had to be an act of violence or some sex. So we managed to pull that off while also writing what I think is a fairly profound and even not revolutionary in the sense that it's going to change the world, but its sensibility is revolutionary. Movie about believable characters in sort of sympathetic circumstances. So, but yeah, we were like, every 5 pages, something crazy has to happen involving like stabbings or an orgy. But problematically, I wrote this by I don't mean to violate any like FCC standards, but I did some drugs, and then I wrote this thing very quickly, accessing the kind of meditative space that the drug facilitated, what was I talking about?
Well, it's important. It's important to know that we had discussed a lot of what should go into a movie we wanted to see before he wrote it.
Yeah.
So we had basically a whole list of things. Looking at the entire history of low budget exploitation movies, what low budget movies can throw out there that works, what is entertaining, and what will hook a viewer. So we had all these ideas that should go into a movie. So this is a movie that we can make for $10,000. It needs to have this, 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 and this. And we basically made a list, and I threw it at David and said, okay, like put these things into it. And he just sort of spit it out.
Voila, 3 weeks.
But-
But the problem is I didn't constrain myself resource-wise. So in writing the movie, I was like, yeah, let's have a gigantic orgy. And, oh, sure, let's have a huge club scene with 2 bands bashing each other on stage with their guitars, and 75 extras.
These are things that in a typical, in a real movie would cost $1 million to film, and we're trying to like do it for $10,000, which I think we can because we just have the gumption and we have a lot of people involved that just like want to do this and want to put on a show and do something really cool. But it's in a way absurd that we're even trying, because if Hollywood tried to make this movie, it would cost $10 million minimum.
Well, I think that's awesome. That's like a punch, almost like a punch straight in the face, which is good. You know what I mean? Because you have these big budget films and you go see them, you're like, you spent all that money to make that? You know? Yeah.
Seriously.
And so being on such a low budget, this movie could film on a lot of different levels, a lot of technical levels. The acting may not be, top tier acting. This is the first thing I've ever shot. So we could have like, some cinematography that's like iffy. The lighting might suck. There's like all kinds of things that can go wrong. But the thing is, and this goes to like the movies that I love, that I grew up on, like all these like low budget exploitation movies, they technically fail, but they are interesting forever. Like movies from like the early 60s that are just like pieces of crap that you can tell like everything in the set is wooden and it's all falling apart, but it's interesting. And so we can fail on several levels. We have a safety net in this, and that we can fail on a lot of technical levels because of our budget, but because of the story being so compelling, no matter what happens visually in the movie, it's going to be an interesting movie no matter what.
Also, the music is awesome.
Yeah, we have a lot of really amazing music, and that's just happening to have a lot of people in our lives that are really amazing musicians that have produced a lifetime of work that's never really been heard outside of their particular scene, that we can draw from their entire lifetime of work and cherry pick the really good stuff and almost make a mixtape in this film. Like, okay, if I was going to make a mixtape of all my friends' bands from the past 20 years that are awesome, I could pick these songs and put that into a movie, and it's going to be phenomenal.
That's great.
Yeah, and the sound is like such a huge part of like any film experience. I think a lot of people don't realize,
We just had a conversation about that in our last episode, about how soundtracks are so underrated. They have fallen off, specifically since like the 90s, like early 2000s, and like literally Space Jam and Rugrats have had better soundtracks than like some of the, some good movies that deserve better soundtracks. And I wanted to go back to your synopsis on THETA GIRL, because it's THETA, correct?
Right.
I'm a sorority girl, so I love how you tied the meaning of theta into its theology and the Greek mythology. I love it. And I loved it. the aura of it has kind of like a grindhouse feel, like Charles and I were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's this aura about it that reminds me of the exploitation films, the Pam Grier, the Farrah Fawcett, and it's just, woman badassery all over it. I love it. I'm here for this. Thank you.
Seriously, man. Grindhouse meets Machete, all that stuff, man.
All of
I
it.
love those stuff. Yeah, I love those
Yeah,
movies.
one of my favorite directors is a guy named Jack Hill, who made a lot of grindhouse films, and Pam Grier was in a bunch of his movies, and so he's a huge influence on me. Like a lot of where I'm drawing from is from him specifically. So that's totally where we're at.
So right now, I'm putting up some production stills from THETA GIRL. Well, excuse me, Teenage Caligula, because you don't have any of that other stuff yet. So this is what I was able to find. What were some of the best moments in this awakening of this first film experience?
Well, geez, I think we sort of realized the hardships in making a movie are not the technical stuff at all. And that was a big eye-opener for me, is that it has nothing to do with like the cameras or the lighting or any of that. It's wrangling people and dealing with their schedules and dealing with their dramas and just all their petty stuff and just trying to like be the daddy of everything.
That's like on anything you work on when you do this type of stuff. So true.
That's movie making is being everybody's dad.
It's project management. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah. So that was the biggest eye opener for me. Everything else is cake. It's easy if you have an idea of some cool image you want to show. Like you can knock that out. You just have to make sure that all your people are on your same page, and that's the trick.
And Cece and myself already have a favorite, and that would be one with the blue hair.
Yes.
Oh, Quinn.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's in THETA GIRL. She plays the singer of a band called Truth Foundation.
Yeah.
Now, do you guys have I don't know if you can admit this, but do you have a favorite actor or actress? Oops.
I think we paused. We lose him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we picked that up. But no, that's amazing. Especially the fact that this was their first try at this.
Yes, I can't believe that.
That's
and we literally just had a conversation about how we need more women superheroes.
I'm telling you, this right here, that shows a lot.
Yeah.
That shows a lot, man. You don't need no big mega budget. You just need people that want to work and get it done.
Mm-hmm.
Hello. I'm very much looking forward to see how their skill sets develop as they shoot more and more. It's gonna be awesome. Yeah.
They're going to move on to big things. I mean, they're going to have a lot of great opportunities.
I'm looking forward to following this.
Yeah, and they have a good attitude too. It's really, really healthy.
Yes. Yeah, it is. It is. I mean, you can't, I think part of being at least a good director or just a good leader in general is you can't let your ego, get in the way of the work.
Yeah, they didn't have an ego at all. They seemed very down to earth, open.
Right, but they're confident in what they do.
You have to, you got to.
Figuring that line of confidence and that egoism,
Well, especially if you're going to shoot a trailer for the second film. When you're working on the first one, you have to have a certain level of confidence or craziness.
Right.
And maybe a little bit of both.
For sure.
Hey, that's a good combo right there.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean,
but they're coming back though, right? We're getting them back on there.
We're trying to do that. I don't know what's going on their end. And we are live, ladies and gentlemen. We are live. And we got some video of the trailer running.
And I'm telling you. I can see
Stop it.
And you.
What was your favorite part of the trailer?
I'm telling you, anyone running around with a shotgun. I like the girl. I think she had the blonde with the shotgun. She just straight hip firing people,
There was a part at the end that I liked because it kind of tied I don't know. I had just, I don't know, but the girl, the blue hair, of course, stuck out. And then there was a scene where the guy was in the jacuzzi, and I
The
guess
dirtbag mayor.
yeah, it was like
A power mad gang Deb leads a rampaging army of Hellcats on a mission to wrestle control of her turf from corrupt city officials.
production, right?
Production, budget. Talking
Budget
about
is-
the
Is pretty much
working with people and the different attitudes that you have to deal with.
Yeah, being the dad.
Being the daddy.
right.
Who's your
Yeah.
daddy?
You know, it's fine. You know, but that's the crux of it. And I think a lot of people that want to go into filmmaking don't realize that it's all just wrangling. It's wrangling people. The budget is a whole different story. You know, our budget is like nothing, and it's sad, but it is what it is. But I think you could make a movie on your iPhone for like $50, and as long as it's interesting, people are going to watch it. Like there's like I said, there's not a bad movie, there's only a boring movie.
Right.
So true.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you could go back, I grew up on a lot of kung fu theater, you know, those kung fu flicks out the 70s.
Right.
If you look at a lot of those things now, I mean, the film was bad, but they were so entertaining. I mean, you see the wires and stuff, but the talent that went into it and everything, it was just entertaining. It kept you glued to, you know, to the television. And a lot of those movies are better. Yeah. A lot of those movies are better than the modern day kung fu flicks.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So yeah, it's all about the entertainment value.
Yeah, and
no, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say we were just talking about how like so many people focus too much on making the movie realistic instead of making the story magical, and kind of like movies are supposed to take you to another place. It's like books, right? So why would you waste all of your resources on making it realistic and then it's kind of empty, even with all of its special effects?
Exactly.
So,
I mean, Hollywood will spend, you know, $100 million to take all the rough edges off a thing, when sometimes the rough edges are the most interesting part.
Yes,
And they will, you know, spend $100 million on special effects for something that is just ultimately not interesting at all. And you know, movie making is storytelling. So you want to tell a story, and it doesn't, people don't care. Like you could have a spaceship hanging on a string and no one cares about the string as long as you're telling the story properly. And they might laugh at the string, but you know, laughter is totally acceptable. What's not acceptable is someone just tuning you out, and then when the movie is over with, they can't even tell you what happened in the movie. I mean, how many major Hollywood movies have you guys been to in the past 5 years where you walked out of the theater and you couldn't even tell somebody what you just saw? Because it just like went in one ear and out the other, and who cares? No big deal. But you know, there's I could name you 100 movies that were made for under $200,000 that are ultimately fascinating and interesting, and I could tell you every bit of the story that goes on there because they told a story, and it didn't matter that the acting was wooden or the lighting was bad, or you could tell that it was a rubber foot stomping on a, you know, model building or whatever. You know, it doesn't matter. It's just a cool story, and that's what we want to do, is we just want to tell a cool story with cool people and you know, cool outfits and cool music. I mean, it's all about just like being cool.
Yeah, which is ironic because we're not cool. We decided that tonight.
Whatever.
Well, you don't have to be cool to tell a cool story. And I think most of the people that have ever told the coolest stories were big nerds.
Wow. How did you guys meet?
Meet? Probably a bar.
We live in the same town. David's been a journalist for many years, and I've really enjoyed his writing. And one night I ran into him and told him he was a war correspondent, and one night I told him that I thought what he did was really heroic, going into war zones and writing about crazy stuff that was going on while people were getting killed all around him. And I've just been kind of a weirdo musician and artist, and I don't know.
Karaoke host.
Oh yeah, karaoke host. So there's that.
But no,
Chris staged a play a stage adaptation of Plan 9 from Outer Space a few years ago. That was freaking amazing.
It's a movie by Ed Wood. It's considered to be the worst movie of all time. But again, like, it's not the worst movie of all time because it's entertaining from start to finish. And I'm so in love with this film that I wanted to put it on the stage. And so myself and a few friends of mine, we did this like elaborate stage production of what is supposedly the worst movie of all time.
Yeah, I saw it like 3 times.
Awesome. I mean, sometimes the best combinations on the outside are like the weirdest combinations. If it makes any sense of what I'm saying. So you two pairing up together is meant to be.
Yeah, but we're also both reliable, and that's probably the most important thing, because it turns out making movies is really hard, and and the major reason, as Chris said, is that people are unreliable, especially when you're not paying them very much. And we can count on each other to finish this even if I have to play all the parts and Chris has to be the whole crew.
Well, here's the thing, like with making movies is everybody wants to say they're a filmmaker, or they want to say they're an actor, and they want to do this stuff because they think it's cool and they think there's a lot of glory in it. But then when you tell them about the work that's involved, all of a sudden, like, they don't have the time for it, and they just, they want to go off and do something else. Everybody wants to be cool. They want the glory of being in the cool project or the cool thing, but there's work, and I think anybody that wanted to get into filmmaking, if I could tell them anything at all, it's filmmaking is really cool, but you have to work, man, and it's like the most work you will ever do in your life, and you will not sleep at all. You're going to be like up all night stressing about everything. But it's totally worth it,
And let's
We think it's worth it. We don't really know if it's worth it yet. Ask us again in like 3 months.
So what's the before we go, what's the website that everyone could support your stuff?
Oh, I think I've sent that to you. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. If you search on Facebook for the THETA GIRL, you can find us there. And there's an Indiegogo site. So if you just Googled THETA GIRL, Indiegogo, you can find that.
And there's a link.
It's been a long day, guys.
So you know what? Also, there's an on Sev Network. If you go in shows, there's an event page. But we'll send out some information. In fact, we'll put it on the Sev Network Facebook page so people could find it as well. Thank you very much, David Axe. Thank you very much, Christopher Bickel.
Thank you.
CC, as always. And Charles.
Thank you. Had a blast. Thanks, guys. It was nice.
Yeah,
nice.
man.
Thank you for being on the show.
And you're watching Eclecticka. I am Seven, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks a lot.
Woohoo!
Thanks,
We
guys.
did it. You survived.
Sorry about the snafu there, the technical
You
snafu.
guys are awesome.